Good evening, folks, and welcome to another edition of Pink Sock Reacts, where we are going to be talking about a movie. We're going to listen to music, whatever. But this episode, we're going to be reviewing and talking about Clue the movie. Came out in 1985, and this is actually credited or cited, as Tim Curry's favorite movie that he ever was in.
Yeah.
Yes. It is a great Tim Curry film. It is a black comedy mystery film. It has an all-star cast, bro. Did you notice that?
I did notice that. Christopher Lloyd
was in it. Tim Curry was in it. Michael McKean was in it. Martin Mull was in it. Eileen Brynan was in it.
That was a lot of good. That was a lot of good. There was a lot of good cast members in this. It was kind of like watching Knives Out.
Knives Out, I think, got their inspiration from this movie.
Yeah. It's like not like the Knives Out movie was like the homage.
Yes.
The
Clue.
Yeah, but before we get into it, do you reckon if they would do like a reboot of this movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
You reckon it would be like more violent than what it was?
Yes. Yes, it would be a lot more violent.
It would be more of a thriller crime thriller.
I think that would be brilliant. This one was more of a comedy than a horror. It was like a mystery comedy.
Yeah, but still, it was good the way how it was done and the way how it was written.
Yes, it was very well written. It was actually written. I'm trying to find out who wrote it. The story was by John Landis and Jonathan Lynn. It's actually based on Cluedo.
Yep.
Which is the board game Clue that came out in 1943. Now we're going to kind of get into the story. I'm going to talk about everything that happened. So if you guys don't want spoilers, look away.
Watch the movie, then watch this.
Watch the movie, then watch this. The difference between this and Knives Out is in Knives Out, there was a detective that was sent to the place unannounced. Sorry if I'm doing this with a lot, because I got some nut in my mouth. No, that's not what I have.
You got nutted.
I got nutted. I ate a pack of nuts before going live. Anyway.
Yeah, you did.
Instead of a detective being sent to solve a murder, it was actually 5 people.
Yeah.
I think it was 5 people. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people was sent there. One 7th guest randomly arrived, but they're all sent there anonymously.
Yeah.
By a letter that came in the mail. It was an ominous invitation. It was to a secluded New England mansion. Now, all of the guests found out slowly that they're all from the Washington, D.C. area, so they all have something in common. However, they were told by the butler that they have to keep these freaking nicknames or fake names, I should say, pseudonyms or however you pronounce it. But to maintain their confidentiality, they have to have these fake names. You have Colonel Mustard, Mrs. White, Mrs. Peacock, Mr. Green, Professor Plum, and Miss Scarlet, which is the names from the board game. Now, a 7th guest arrived, Mr. Body, who Wadsworth, who is the butler, revealed that he has been blackmailing the others. He is accusing Miss Peacock of taking bribes for her husband, who is a U.S. senator. She denies any wrongdoing and claims that she paid the blackmailer to keep the scandal quiet. Mrs. White is suspected of the death of her husband, a nuclear physicist. She denies guilt and says that she does not want the allegations to be made public. Professor Plum has lost his medical license due to an affair with a patient, which he initially denies. Mrs. Scarlet runs an underground brothel in Washington, D.C., which she is not ashamed of. Colonel Mustard, although initially is suspected of being one of Mrs. Scarlet's clients, is actually a war profiteer who sold plane parts on the black market, resulting in several deaths. Mr. Green comes out as homosexual. He's not ashamed of it, but he must keep it a secret because it would cost him his job at the State Department if discovered. Now, keep in mind that last one is very outdated, but this movie takes place in 1954. Um,
30 years later from that date when it was recorded, filmed.
yeah, it was 30 years after, like, when this movie was filmed. It was 30 years after that. And then now it's, what, 60 years?
Yeah. What
So,
now? Like, as in from this date now?
it's actually 70 years, ain't it?
Yeah.
Now,
Something like that.
Wadsworth informs them that the police have been notified, and they all have about 45, 50 minutes before they all arrive. I don't know how far he lives from the fucking police station, but okay.
It's a movie. They're allowed to bullshit.
Yeah, like in freaking Knives Out, the authorities will be here in the morning, even though somebody's dead.
Yeah.
Now, this movie, as you notice, is very similar to Knives Out in a way.
Yeah.
Now, the police was notified. He stated that due to Mr. Body threatening the guests, he was threatened. Sorry, I'm trying to get my wording right. He was threatened. Mr. Body decided to start threatening the guests if he gets arrested. He gives them each a weapon, which we end up with a wrench to Colonel Mustard, a rope for Mrs. White, a revolver for Professor Plum. We have a lead pipe for Mr. Green, a knife for Mrs. Peacock, and a candlestick for Mrs. White, or Mrs. Scarlet, sorry. So the guests are giving all these weapons. He suggests that they all kill Wadsworth, who has the key to the front door, and he even said that nobody will get out of here alive. So he said, well, let's make sure of that.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, nobody other than the 7 of us will even know that of the secrets and of his death. So Mr. Body ends up turning out the lights. We hear a bunch of moans. We hear a gunshot. The lights are turned back on. And lo and behold, Mr. Body is the one that was killed. But they can't find out how, because there's no bullet wound, nothing like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The lights went out though first, didn't it?
Yeah. Mr. Body turned the lights out, and then Mr. Body got killed. Now, when you watch this movie again, you notice things that they bring up at the end of the movie, like little subtle things that you wouldn't have noticed while watching. This is a very good mystery film because they have small details that you would otherwise miss. Now, Mr. Body's dead without any indication at first glance as to how. As they start investigating Body's death by splitting up and exploring the mansion, Wadsworth ends up explaining to them that his wife committed suicide due to Mr. Body's blackmail because she refused to name friends who were socialists, forcing him to become Body's butler, and that he was summoned. Yes, he was the one that summoned the guest to force a confession out of Mr. Body and turn him over to the police. The group suspects the cook killed Mr. Body. So they end up going to the kitchen and find that the cook is dead, stabbed with a knife. And then when they bring the cook into the room with them, they're dragging this cook. They realize that Mr. Body's body is gone.
Yeah.
So they're like, oh my God, he wasn't dead. What happened? Blah, 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 blah. Wadsworth freaks the fuck out. Is wondering where he's at. They end up going into the other room because they hear a scream. If I'm not mistaken, it was Mrs. Peacock. Mrs. Peacock was freaking out because Mr. Body's body landed on her and he was beaten in the head with a candlestick.
Yeah, that was brutal.
Wadsworth freaked out and locked all the weapons in a cupboard. He went to throw the key away outside, but they were interrupted by a stranded motorist who was outside of the door, and they end up locking the motorist into the room where the phone's at. And then he grabs the key out of his pocket, throws it outside, and closes the door. Now they break into pairs to find out who is doing all of this. We then see a mysterious person wearing black gloves destroying by burning all of the blackmail evidence in the fireplace. And then the unknown assailant unlocks the cupboard and ends up killing the motorist with a wrench. Then Colonel Mustard and Miss Scarlet find a secret passage, and they end up finding out that it is the fireplace in the room where the motorist was killed. They find the motorist's body and they freak the fuck out because they end up locked in there. The rest of them find them in the room, accuse them of killing the motorist, which no way they could have because they had just discovered him. This is when shit starts getting crazy. A police officer investigates the motorist's abandoned car outside and ends up asking them if he can use their phone. And if they know anything about this motorist, they say no. The cop ends up going into the room where the phone's at, different room than where the motorist was killed. They lock him in there. He ends up getting out because they let him out and they're like, sorry, we locked you in there, whatever. And the reason why they locked him in there is to try to hide the evidence of everything going on. One of the guys starts showing the cop around. He gets suspicious, goes into a room. And this is really fucked up. But like the woman's on the bed making out with a dead body, like having it rub her arm, looking like they're partying. And the other one's in the corner doing the same thing with the chef. And he's like, oh,
I missed that part. Yeah, because I was in the toilet. I had to go for a piss, and then I forgot to pause the movie, so I need to go really bad.
Yeah, you need to watch it. They're like making out, and it's all cool looking, and then the cop's like, oh, nothing going on here, and shut the door, went into the other room. And
that's like next stage of necrophiliac, dude.
Right? Well, in the next room, they have the motorist, and they're doing the same thing, except the motorist, they put alcohol all over his mouth, and they have him slumped over to look like he's passed out drunk. And the two other people are making out on the couch, and they're like, oh, he's drunk, we'll drive him home. And this is when the cop walks up to the butler who's freaking out because the cop just went into those rooms. Yeah. And he's like, I can explain everything. And the cop's like, you don't have to. There's nothing illegal going on here. And, and the butler was like, what? And he's like, the cop's like, yeah, this is America. You're allowed to have fun. And the butler's like, I knew it was free, but didn't know it was that free. And the cop ended up going back into the room because he got a phone call. Yeah. Well, there was a phone call. And the phone call was from the head of the FBI. And he's like, who are they? Why are you getting a call from the head of the FBI? That is when the butler goes into the room and talks to the head of the FBI. And he goes back in, and the cop's like, can I use the phone again? They lock him in the room yet again. So, now that we're all kind of caught up with that, the police officer is sitting in the room. The electricity gets shut off again. Then we see an unknown person who was the one that turned off the electricity, ended up killing Yvette, who is the maid, the police officer, and a singing telegram girl who was outside, and they were killed with a rope, which Yvette, the maid, was choked with a rope. The police officer was hit over the head with a lead pipe, and the singing telegram lady was shot with a revolver. Wadsworth and the others regrouped after he turned the electricity back on, and he says he knows who the murderer is, recreating the entire night's events, and he explained that the 5 other victims were Mr. Body's informants, each with a connection to one of the guests. The cook, who used to be Peacock's cook, the cop was bribed by Scarlett, the motorist was Mustard's driver during World War II. Yvette was one of Scarlett's call girls who had an affair with White's husband, and the singing telegram was a patient whom Professor Plum had the affair with. The evangelists interrupted the gathering. They opened up the door because the doorbell was being rang and there was an evangelist outside. Mrs. Peacock slammed the door on his face. Now, Wadsworth continued his explanation. However, this is where the movie splits off into 3 different endings. So up to this point is the actual story. Now we have 3 different endings. The first ending is how it might have happened.
Yeah.
Yvette murdered the cook with the knife and Mr. Body with Miss Scarlett's candlestick on orders from Miss Scarlett herself, whom then killed Yvette and the other victims. Planning to sell the guest's secrets, Scarlett prepares to shoot Wadsworth, who asserts that there are no more bullets left. He ends up grabbing her, causing them to bicker on how many shots were actually made. He ends up disarming Scarlett as law enforcement raided the house. When Wadsworth is asked where the chief police is, he has revealed that he was the one posing as the evangelist. The chief of police congratulates Wadsworth, who then revealed himself to be an undercover FBI agent. Wadsworth attempts to demonstrate the revolver was empty, but he ends up shooting the chandelier, knocking it off the wall, and almost killing Colonel Mustard. So in the first turn of events, we have one killer. It was Miss Scarlet. Well, Yvette too, but she's dead. We only have one that's still alive.
Yeah.
Miss Scarlet was the one that killed them, and we have Wadsworth as an undercover FBI agent, and the phone call was actually for him. Now, we have a second event, which says, how about this? And this is when the movie kind of is like comedic, because it gives like a very comedic, how about this ending?
Yeah.
The second ending, now keep in mind when this movie was in theaters, you only got one of these three endings. The DVD and VHS release after the theater release is when you got to see what the real ending was and what the other two endings were.
What was the total running of the whole movie?
The total running time?
Yeah, because without the alternative endings.
Well, the movie with the alternative endings was 97 minutes. So an hour and 20 minutes. Without the alternative endings was probably an hour and 10.
Okay. Because then that was a short film then.
Yeah, it was a short film. It was in theaters. Back then in 1985, movies were usually like an hour, hour and a half.
Yeah, the way how they should be.
Yeah. The how about this ending, Miss Peacock killed all the victims to conceal that she took bribes from foreign powers. She holds the others at gunpoint as they allow her to leave. Outside, she is surprised by the evangelist who knew her by name. And she's like, how'd you know my name? And that's when he revealed himself to be chief of police. The police emerged and arrested her, now revealing to be an undercover FBI agent was Mr. Wadsworth. He was congratulated by the chief of police, and then he asked anybody if they care for fruit or dessert. So the two endings so far end very similarly, but somebody else did the killings, like two different people did the killings. But Wadsworth is the FBI agent.
Yeah.
Now, here is what really happened. Are you ready for this?
Go for it.
All right. Professor Plum missed Mr. Body with the revolver. So Mr. Plum actually tried killing Mr. Body with the revolver. He missed. But he later killed him in the hall with the candlestick. Mrs. Peacock stabbed the cook in the kitchen with the knife. Colonel Mustard bludgeoned the motorist with the wrench in the lounge. Mrs. White throttled Yvette in the billiards room with the rope out of jealousy and hatred for the latter's affair with the former husband, whom Mrs. White had also killed. Miss Scarlet clubbed the cop in the library with a lead pipe. When Mr. Green was suspected of shooting the singing telegram girl, he states that he didn't do it. The revolver is missing. So they're all like, well, whoever has the revolver is the one that shot and killed the singing telegram girl, because that was the last person to be killed. This is when Mr. Wadsworth drew the revolver on Professor Plum and stated that he shot the singing telegram girl, and reveals that he is actually the real Mr. Body.
Yeah.
The fake Mr. Body that got killed was actually the real butler. And it was stated several times in the movie that he is a butler, but he's not the butler. So he actually said that in the movie.
Yeah.
So he's the one that shot the singing telegram girl because he's Mr. Body. When Professor Plum asks who he really shot, that's when he explained the whole butler thing. He said he has his spies and informants that are very disposable. Mr. Body plans to continue blackmailing the guests until Mr. Green draws another revolver and kills Mr. Body. Where that revolver came from, we don't know yet. We're like, okay, why does Mr. Green have a revolver? What is his play in this story? He ends up killing Mr. Body. He ends up revealing himself as an undercover FBI agent, and that the call from Hoover, who is the head of the FBI, was actually for Mr. Green. He opens the front door, bringing in the authorities to arrest all the others, revealing to have posed as an evangelist was the chief of police, which was like the other endings. He told him that everybody did all the killings. However, Mr. Green clarified that he was the one that killed Mr. Body in the hall with the revolver. After being patted on the shoulder by the chief of police, He declared, "Okay, Chief, take him away. I'm going to go home and make love to my wife."
Yeah.
Which is a beautiful fucking ending. He's like, "I'm going to go home and fuck my wife."
That's how all movies should be.
They should just end with people saying, "I'm going to go bang my wife."
Yeah. You know, romance, thrillers, horror, you know, psychological horror, crime, you know, boom. Whatever happened to that?
However, this movie did get mixed reviews. It was good and bad reviews. The movie didn't even make its budget in theaters, sadly. It grossed $14.6 million in North America, even though it had a $15 million budget. But I'm pretty sure it earned that over the years.
Later.
Yeah, over the years. Rotten Tomatoes gave it an average score of 6.3 out of 10. Well, the Chicago Sun-Times, Robert Ebert, gave it 2 out of 4 stars. He stated that the cast was promising, but the screenplay was very, very thin.
I hope he got fired for that.
I hope he did too.
Because I thought it was good. I thought it was like a Broadway. It could be done as a Broadway musical.
They did do a musical.
Oh, did they? Man.
They did Clue the musical. Yes,
That's cool.
There is a musical of it. I would love to see them do a remake of this movie.
Oh, Rob Zombie.
Rob Zombie eats your fucking heart out.
Say, Rob, you got some work to do. You've got what was the movie that we said that he should remake?
I said Rocky Horror Picture Show.
That and this.
Dude, could you imagine who did these murders? And at the very end of the movie, how do you do? I so you've met mine. It was actually Dr. Frankenfurter the whole time.
Yeah.
So what do you rank this movie?
For a movie that came out in 1985, based on the 50s, I'll give it a 7.5.
7.5.
But I'll give the acting and the storyline at 8.5.
Okay, 7.5 for like the time period, 8.5 for the acting and everything. I fully agree with that.
Yeah, I thought that the acting and screenplay, the script writing, everything that was going on, I thought that was pretty cool.
I thought it was brilliant. And
it was kind of brutal for a movie that only went for like an hour and 10 minutes, whatever it was.
Yeah,
like there was so much going on.
There was so much fucking going on in that movie. Like you're like, wait, this was only an hour and like 20 minutes of my time?
It's like the first person died within like 10 minutes in the movie.
And it's pretty brutal of a movie because I think it got only a PG rating. I do believe.
If they reboot this movie, it'll be an R-rated movie.
Have it rated R and have like Rob Zombie direct it, and it was PG.
Yeah, but I thought it was good. It's a good little, mystery movies. Like I wasn't really a fan with these type of movies until I started watching Knives Out, and then like those type of movies are, it's just fun to watch.
Oh, you want to hear a fourth ending that we had? There was a fourth ending, but they chose not to go with it.
Okay, what was the fourth?
According to IMDb, there was a fourth ending shot, but subsequently dropped from the film altogether due to the fact that the director Lynn did not like or approve of it. This ending was actually included in the movie storybook. It had Wadsworth being the solo killer of the bunch, explaining that he killed everyone out of the need for perfection of the world, that all of life's consistencies were not good enough, and further tells the 6 victims that he has poisoned the champagne he served, and unless they find the antidote in 3 hours, they'll die. Police show up soon enough and trap Wadsworth, but not for long. He gets away from the chief and leaves, locking all the people in the mansion, and as he steals the police car, he notices a smell, the dog dropping smell from the beginning of the film, and realizes the Doberman from earlier is now in the police car, and it lunges for him. The police car crashes and Wadsworth is dead. This implies the others got out okay for now through the windows, but are not guarded by the Doberman any longer. However, they could have done a fucking sequel. It's kind of like Saw. They have to find the anecdote in the fucking house.
That'd be cool. But I would like to see him do like a direct sequel from this from now.
Bro, like have it take place in 1985 instead of 1950, whatever, because it's the same
Yeah.
amount of time between the two.
Yeah,
That's fucking cool.
be cool. But Tim Curry was amazing in this movie. Christopher Lloyd was good.
You want to know what's crazy? Talking about the 3 different endings. In the cities that you were in, if you were looking up the play, like the movie times, because that's what you used to do, used to read it in a newspaper, it would actually let you know which ending you got. It said ending A, B, or C, depending on what theater.
I probably wouldn't. I probably wouldn't say that. I would have just kept it as like as a surprise.
That would be cool, but could you imagine you have to collect them all? You have to travel and collect all 3 endings.
How about then? Like, how annoying would it be though? You have to go to like different theaters just to watch the ending. Like, just miss the first hour and 10 of the movie, and just go and watch the last 10 minutes of the ending, the alternate endings.
Then you realize that, like, oh, I could have just bought the DVD. No, not the DVD, but VHS that time. The VHS for cheaper.
Yeah.
Like,
but that's kind of cool though. I like that the idea of doing that, having 3 different endings in different theaters.
Did you recognize the singing Telegram Girl?
No.
She was played by Jane Weidlin, who was the rhythm guitarist of the Go-Go's.
Ah, cool.
She had a very small role in the movie.
But yeah, I thought it was a good movie.
Oh, here's an interesting thing. Professor Plum, Christopher Lloyd's character, hypnotizes the group that the brandy was poisoned. In the original Clue game, the poison was actually a possible weapon, but they removed it. And then it was later reintroduced in the 1990s game Clue Master Detective. But
Did you ever play Clue, the board game?
I actually have it. I actually bought the original version of it.
Oh, yeah? Have you got it on you?
Yes, I do. Let me go find it. Go ahead and promote yourself, Gorak. Promote the podcast. Tell them where they can find us. I'll go find Clue, the board game.
Yeah. Well, while Mike's doing the runner, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Follow us on all social media, YouTube, Spotify, Facebook, Instagram, and follow me on my Instagram page at Gorak_1985. And if you go to my own Instagram page, I set up an all my links links on my Instagram page that links to the Pink Sock podcast and link to the other 2 podcasters that I've been on guest on. Shout out to Mark Jabrino and everybody from the MGC crew. Shout out to Defcoms Lifting. Go and check out that interview that I done a few weeks ago. Zach, you're a good dude. Hope to see you come back on here. And shout out to all of our other friends and that's been supporting us. But don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And yeah, guys,
you're amazing. You did a great job. I'm proud of you. Give
Gorak back. Get away from here. I'm trying to promote myself now.
Give this man a round of applause. Come on, guys. I'm proud of you because
it's 4:30 in the morning. I'm tired of shit, and then I'm like,
when you first appeared on this podcast, you wouldn't even fucking talk, dude. Like, I'm proud of you, how far you've came.
I do customer service at work. I gotta talk. Oh, that's sick. That's cool. When I come and see you in America, we're playing that.
We're playing it for the show.
Yeah. We do a live stream of playing Clue.
Yeah, you literally, what you do is, I haven't played this game in so long, but you put in this what happened, like who killed who where, and you got to solve it.
Yeah.
And it's I've never played it. Honestly, I'm going to say that right now. Well, I did one time, I think, when I a wee young lad. But other than that, I don't think I've played it anytime recently. See, I have this weird thing where, like, I know I've played certain games when I was younger. I've seen certain movies when I was young and shit, but I can't tell you a thing about them.
Yeah.
Like, I can't tell you a fucking thing about them at all. But, guys, that was Clue. For Pink Sock Reacts next week, and we are going to be doing Pink Sock Podcast on Monday. We don't have a topic yet. We're probably just going to randomly talk about crazy shit, porn, whatever. You know how we do. Pink Sock in the House. But
this is called Pink Sock Podcast, so yeah.
We talk about all kinds of crazy shit. I can't help it. But me and Grat can't help ourselves. So for Pink Sock Reacts Wednesday at noon Eastern Standard Time, and Pink Sock Podcast is live noon Eastern Standard Time on Monday. Write that in your calendars. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that follow button. Hit that share button. Help us.
Tell your friends. Tell your parents. Tell your ex-partners. Tell the people that you don't like, but you still talk to them. And tell your neighbors.
We are, and I'm saying this with confidence, we are the best podcast with the name Pink Sock Podcast. We are the best. But for Pink Sock Reacts Wednesday, we are going to be reacting or talking about that 90s show.
Hey, there's me.
You're red?
No, Oz.
Speaking
of me
Oz,
that's me when I was like 15.
Speaking of Oz, Ozzy Osbourne just announced that he is retiring from doing shows. Not doing shows, but touring.
Yeah.
And we will discuss that on Pink Sock on Monday.
I just want to keep it on the music topic. And I just read the Smashing Pumpkins are coming to Australia with Jane's Addiction. And from what I've read, it's got to be called the World's a Vampire Festival. And they're playing in Wollongong Entertainment Centre just up the road from my house. And from what I've heard, they're going to have wrestlers performing.
That's fucking cool.
He's bringing his wrestling company down under.
Yeah, he owns the NWA.
Yeah, so while the band's playing, there's going to be like a wrestling match.
That's fucking hilarious. The world is a vampire. Fucking
yeah. So that's kind of cool. That's kind of cool.
Are you going?
And, I don't know. I've only just found this out yesterday. The announcement only just happened yesterday, and Steve-O is coming to Wollongong.
Go. You need to fucking go. Okay.
Steve-O's playing at the IPAC Theatre, I think. I could be wrong. It's just up the road from my house.
Steve-O should wrestle for NWA whenever.
Fucking... I hope he brings Bam down too, because he's been bringing Bam to his shows.
That's cool. That's fucking cool. Speaking of Bam, CKY, his cousin's band, is back together and doing shit, I guess.
I wouldn't say it's his cousin.
Aren't they related?
His brother's band.
Oh, it's his brother. Okay. I always... Okay.
Yeah, Jesse.
Yeah, I forgot how they were related. I keep forgetting that Bam has a brother, so I just call him his cousin.
Same thing.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, though, with CKY is he's the only original member, so like.
Really?
Yeah, the
singer. I thought Chad Ginsburg is the original member too.
Let me double check here. You might be right, Gorak, because I don't really know too much about CKY. I just know that a lot of the original members have left since.
Yeah, the bassist and the singer.
Yeah, the only original member really, Chad is an original too. But the lead singer left not too long ago, and he has his own band.
Yeah.
What's his band's name?
I don't know, but I know he's married to this chick that was like in horror movies.
Oh, his band is 96 Quite Bitter Beings. It's pretty much the biggest CKY song ever.
That could have just been a tribute band.
They just released a new album.
Oh, nice.
Not CKY. 96 Bitter Beings.
No, but do they sound like that?
Yes, they actually do sound like CKY. It could have very much have been a tribute band.
Yeah, right.
Oh, Their name's not 96 quite bitter beings. They're just 96 bitter beings.
Oh, okay. Because CKY couldn't sue them.
Yeah, they couldn't.
They could probably, Could they?
I don't think, because it's not close enough to the name. That's kind of like Geoff Tate. He's touring as Operation Mindcrime. And that's that's an album that he did with Queensryche.
Yeah.
Sorry, my brain kind of froze there. It was an album that he did with Queensryche, but Queensryche can't really sue him because it's not a band; it's a album.
Yeah, but yeah, that's some really cool concerts coming down to Australia soon. So I would like to see Steve-O. I think he's playing Tuesday night. I can see if I can get a Tuesday off.
Did you see Alice Cooper announced yet another tour?
Yeah, Rob Zombie and Ministry and Filter.
This Mama Jumba, okay, Alice Cooper is going to be going on a UK tour with the Hollywood Vampires this year. He's going to be doing a solo tour this year. He's touring with Motley Crue this year. And
he's got Rob Zombie.
And he's touring with Rob Zombie. He is 4 tours. He's never going to retire. I don't think.
No. Hey, I think he was trying to make up for the time off that he had from like 2 years ago.
He's like, fuck it.
You reckon? There's like a lot of catching up?
I reckon. I bet you his next tour he's going to announce he's just going to tour with the original Alice Cooper lineup.
That would be cool.
But guys, that was Pink Sock Reacts. Let us know what you think of the movie Clue in the comments below. Love you all.
Not Clue.
Not Clue. Clue.
No, I said glue.
Not glue. Clue. Don't sniff the clue. The clue goo. Go
Don't sniff the glue and don't eat the fish. Sorry, that's the System of a Down song. Don't eat the fish.
But love you all. Hit that subscribe button. Help us spread the sock. Much love. And as always, live long, rock hard.
Terracotta pie. Hey, terracotta pie. Banana.